We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I've been given specific instructions because I know you have a lot of web viewers at the Venetia to make sure we do our proper intros and that everybody speaks into the mic this evening. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Gongora with Becker and Polyakov. I've had the pleasure of representing your building for, I think, about the past 6 years. Present by speakerphone is your president, Sharon Dodge, who couldn't be with us this evening. Well, she was. Let's call her back.
I guess she didn't like what you said. Okay, you know it? Oh, you got it.
Some numbers I know by heart at this point.
That's not a good thing.
Hello?
Hi, you back with us, Sharon?
Yes, I am. I think I'm in a pretty good area.
Okay, wonderful. By speakerphone, you have Sharon Dodge, president. Seated to my right, I think you all know Loretta Alcalay, who is your vice president. Thank you for being here in person this evening. To her right, you have Rick Clyde, the regional director with Castle Group, your management company. To his right, you have Gerardo Palacios, your manager here from Castle Group. And I think most of you know Mylene Ibanez standing also with the Castle Group. Thank you all this evening. First on the agenda, we had a reconvened special meeting of the membership this evening. And we had first to certify quorum and a call to order. I was handed some information earlier, which I'll go ahead and announce from Castle Group. The Venetia has 382 total units in your building. However, for purposes of determining quorum for tonight, we do not count units whose voting rights have been suspended for failure to pay maintenance, and we also do not count association-owned properties. So those properties total 70 units, which brings the total number of eligible units to vote at the Venetia down to 312. This is where legal questions come in, because the Florida statute, which talks about material alterations to buildings, which is what we're talking about this evening with the media board and the renovations, requires 75% affirmative votes of eligible units to vote in favor of an item. What that means is we would need to have 234 votes in favor typically for either the media board to pass or changes in colors and material alterations to your interior renovations to pass, unless the Venetia governing documents have a lower quorum requirement. There's a legal question as to whether your documents actually only require a 66% vote. If that is correct, then we are there this evening as to both items. If that's not correct, then we're a couple of votes short. So what I have asked the board to do, unfortunately, is to once again reconvene the unit owner meeting. So number one, we can make a legal study of the governing documents, because I know that things get litigious at Venetia and we don't want to have a lawsuit over these items. To see number one, if we're there already, or number two, if we need more votes. I can announce as of right now, we have 225 votes, which for the interior hallway renovation project, which would put us 9 votes short of a 75% quorum requirement, if we need that requirement. And we have 200 affirmative votes for the media board, or 34 votes short of the 75% if we in fact need that higher quorum requirement. So in an abundance of caution, we're going to reconvene this meeting so we can do further study. And if we need the votes, that'll give us another opportunity to get where we need to be, to the higher vote amount. Does anybody have any questions about this? Okay. Sure. Yes, but I recognize you. I'm supposed to hand the mic and have Mylene bring it to you and ask you to state your name and unit number at the podium so that those watching at home can hear you.
I'm Brad Collins. I live in 711, and I've been here 10 years, and we've been trying very hard to get this done. My question is that a statute that we need 75% of the vote, or is that just in our documents?
No. The statute says that you need 75% of eligible votes in favor of an item to pass a material alteration. That's Florida Statutes Chapter 718, the Condo Act. However, it further says that if your governing documents have a lesser percentage, that we can go by the governing documents. Your governing documents are somewhat cloudy and unclear, so that's why we want to make sure we do a thorough review.
Okay, if it allows that, then for the future, if there's some, because a lot of the people that own here don't live here, and we all made very, very concerted efforts to get votes of people who weren't around to make sure everyone voted. And if we're able to modify it that way for the future, how do we just change our documents for the future so it doesn't have to be 75% every time? This one's a little bit easier of a drive, but there may be some things that have to be changed and worked on that will be very hard to get people to coordinate for 75% for the future, I think.
That was a question that actually Ms. Dodge posed to me earlier today. If you can amend your documents with a 2/3 vote, that perhaps there would be other items the board would like to put before the unit owners to lessen the percentage amounts or make changes to the governing documents.
So we can add that to another vote and make a push to get it, so the numbers still a super majority, but not that 75% number, because that's almost impossible for almost anything.
Yes, your documents may be amended, and if you are going to consider an amendment, my advice would be that you do it at the January election, because that's when you get the biggest turnout.
Okay. I recommend that, Sharon, if you're listening.
Thank you. Are there any further questions on this item? You've really, and I will say, I represent a lot of buildings. That's what I do, is I represent associations. It's very difficult to get the amount of votes that you have, so I commend you all, and I think it shows how important these two projects are and how much many of you believe that they should move forward. So we will review that, and if necessary, we will reset this meeting one more time to ensure that we cross the T's, dot the I's, and that everything fully complies with the law. So, thank you. And that will conclude the unit owner portion of the meeting for tonight. And that will take...
So should we not make the motion that we defer the voting to a meeting after following the resolution of the legal question?
Yes, I will...
That motion, and then Loretta can second, and then we can...
Yes, there was a motion by Ms. Dodge to reschedule the unit owner meeting and reconvene it for more than 14 days out to comply with the mailing requirement if we need to make sure we get the additional votes needed. Is there a second?
I second that.
That is seconded by Loretta, and since there's only the two of you ladies here this evening, that will pass unanimously.
Thank you.
I think it would have passed anyways, perhaps not unanimously.
All right. Then immediately following the unit owner meeting, there was a notice for a board of directors meeting to follow. The first item was certifying of quorum. We have 2 of 3 present in person or by phone, so we have a quorum. Proof of notice of meeting. For the board meeting, all that was required was that it be posted conspicuously at least 48 hours in advance of tonight. Was that done, Mr. Palacios? Okay, so then we have proof of notice of meeting. That takes us to the actual agenda. The first item on the agenda was a vote on resolution related to director's disclosure on real estate business relationship. And this was something that was included in the package that actually Loretta and Emilio have wanted to ratify, but perhaps since Emilio isn't here, it would be my advice that we carry that over to the next meeting as well.
Well, okay, that's fine, although we did vote already on this.
Right, you voted on it once before, and you and Emilio have signed off on it. It was just to ratify it. But since he's not here, let's move on to the next item, which was to ratify and approve the decisions of the design committee contained in the minutes. This was an item that you have a separate design committee that convened and made recommendations to the board. They put those recommendations down and into formal minutes, and this is an opportunity for the board to consider ratifying and approving those minutes of the design committee and making them the decision of the board. Are there any questions about this or comments?
I don't have any. Sharon?
Nope,
Okay.
none here.
Is there a motion by one of the board members then to ratify and approve the decisions of the design committee as contained in the minutes?
I make the motion that we approve, accept the suggestions of the design committee.
Is there a second?
I second that.
That's a second. Since there's only 2 of you in favor, that will clearly pass. The last item on the agenda is a discussion of a potential special assessment to cover cost of voluminous document requests. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Loretta for this one.
Hi. We are considering a special assessment, and we thought it would be appropriate to let you know ahead of time so that you're not surprised by it if and when we take it up for a vote. But I think all of you know that we have a bare bones budget. We've done everything possible to reduce the cost of operating the Venetia so that we could lower our maintenance. What that means is that when expenses come up that are above and beyond what we anticipated, we need to cover them by a special assessment. And in this particular case, we've been dealing with voluminous document requests that have been taking up a lot of time of the staff, that have included legal fees for assistance that we've needed from Becker Polyakov. So the only fair way is we need to increase our staff to handle these requests because we're not able to cover the work that needs to be done for the Venetia. And I think week after week, there are people that work till 7, 8 o'clock at night, which isn't fair, but week after week, there's work that doesn't get done for the association because there are time limits to respond to document requests. So what we are contemplating doing is adding people to the staff, at least temporarily, to cover those document requests, and also to do this special assessment to cover the past costs. So basically, we just wanted to let you know that that could well be coming down the pike.
Does anybody have any questions on any of the items discussed?
I'm Brad again. What are the document requests about that are so costly?
Well, it's really the volume of the requests. The volume, it just takes a lot of time to pull almost daily requests for documents. It just takes a lot of time. Some of it includes matters that are attorney-client privileged, that require coordinating with Becker Polyakov, but it's really the voluminous number of requests.
Yeah, it doesn't really, I don't really understand still though. I mean, why, I mean, there would be normal volume requests for people who want public information about what's going on with business here. Is that what it is?
Well, it's really just a couple of people that ask for contracts, ask for canceled checks, ask for invoices dating back 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So that means that the staff, and we really only have 2 people, have to and do spend hours and hours and hours putting together document requests.
But then are they requesting it continuously?
Yes,
or is it
it's
done
almost on a daily basis.
Okay. And is that just a personal thing between the people that are requesting it and the board?
You know, I really don't want to, you know, people have a legal right to request information.
No, if it's malicious, they don't. And
Well,
if they're interfering with the contract between this company that's running the place and the people who live here, and we're going to be paying for it, they don't have a right, I don't think. There's some public requests, but shouldn't we know whether it's that or it's something that's legitimate?
I don't want at this meeting to be casting aspersions on their motivations. You know, I have my own opinions. Do I think it's necessary to do that? No, I personally do not feel it's necessary to request documents on a daily basis going back years and years. I don't think it's necessary to request documents on my personal unit. I don't think it's necessary to look at my expenditures as though there was some reason to believe that I were acting illegally. So no, I do not believe that there's a legitimate basis for some of those requests. But it's not my personal opinion.
Can I ask you that, Michael? If there's, you know, tortious interference, if there's some kind of malice or some kind of tortious interference with our business here at the Venetia, they're doing it, can the board sue them, or can we seek some reason not to provide it if it's costing money? It's going to cost us money? I think I can get a group of people together to sue people to stop doing that. It's going to cost us money. But
Right, it's a very good question. I can tell you this. Under the Florida Condominium Act, Chapter 718 of Florida statutes, unit owners have the right to make records requests upon the association. This building has an unusually high volume of records requests and requests for legal opinions from certain unit owners that are coming in on a weekly basis, probably more so than any building I've ever seen throughout my career. There is nothing in the statute that talks about an abuse of the right to seek records or legal opinions. Florida law does allow for boards to pass rules to limit the amount of records requests. However, that item was brought before the association last year, quite frankly, on our suggestion, and it became a hot topic roughly a year ago, I think, last summer at a board meeting, and it ended up dying. There was no rule limiting records requests, and they continue to come in on an unusually high rate. I don't know that an association necessarily has a claim for tortious interference, but clearly if an association has to expend additional monies to respond to certain unit owners' records requests, hire additional personnel, pay additional legal expenses, and that's money not accounted for in your regular budget, then an association is oftentimes forced to pass on a special assessment to pay for these additional costs.
Okay. Well, if it ends up being that we can show it's malicious, can we get the association to sue people? Maybe I don't know who's doing it, but you guys, if you're the ones doing it, come up and why don't you say why you're doing it? If we're going to get assessed.
I have somebody with their hand raised.
Yeah, Lori, if you want to.
I'll come to the podium.
This is the first I'm really hearing about it in detail.
I'm Lori Durham. I live in 11K. One of the questions I wanted to ask is what happened to the $15,000 scanning project that the board voted on to scan the business records into PDFs so that this wouldn't have to be done? And why does the board feel it necessary to have all the document requests handled by a lawyer? The real cost comes in when we ask to see standard business records, which we're all entitled to see under the statute, and you make us go to his office to look at them. So now we have to pay Gongora to see the records. That's where the cost comes in. For you, or for anybody, you can walk in or you can write and you can say, hey, I'm interested to see this. The statute allows that you can see it for 7 years. They must maintain it for 7 years, and they have to produce it to you in 5 days. They have a problem doing that. That we know, because here we are, year after year. How long have we all been talking about this?
I was going to talk to you about. I talked to you about trying to put it all in one database.
So they $15,000. They get Josue or whatever, and now I think he's the receptionist or something. He's never, that I am aware of, scanned one thing into PDF. I have never received a record by PDF. I have had to go to Mr. Gongora's office and sit with Carlos Martin while they sit there and babysit me, because I guess they think I'm going to abscond with the copies. They're not even original documents.
Can I ask you a question?
So why do I have to go there?
What are you looking for?
What are you looking for?
What are you looking for? That's
over and over and over.
It's not over and over and over.
Well, apparently it is, or you wouldn't be paying.
One time, it's like a little onion that you start to peel it away and you start to find things, and then you ask for different things. I've never asked for the same thing twice. And to my knowledge, neither has anybody else that I know. I found out some things, and then I became quite interested in other things. And those things continue to evolve as I ask for the records, and I'm entitled to those.
Absolutely.
Now, I was at the design committee meeting where Sharon recommended that we have $1,000 per unit special assessment for the material alterations for the hallway. So what I want to find out tonight is this special assessment because you don't have money for the hallway renovations, or is this a special assessment so that you can stop us from seeing our records? May I have
I'll answer your question.
I have an answer to the question.
Yeah. Go ahead. Do you want to answer? And then I'm going to...
Okay, well, right now we are only informing the residents, the owners, that there's the possibility of a special assessment. We're not voting on a special assessment today, but the purpose of the special assessment would be to cover the costs of the voluminous requests, and to be able to hire additional staff to alleviate the only two people that work here so that they can move forward with the business of the condominium. And with all due respect, people can make requests, but the requests have been repetitive in a number of instances, whether it's because two people asked for the same records or one person asks for the same records over a period of time. The bottom line is that the requests are voluminous and beyond our ability to handle them with the staff that we have. And the decision to use legal counsel is based on a number of issues, including the fact that at times the situation has become volatile in the building, and it is much more dangerous and much more of a liability to have that kind of volatility here as opposed to in Michael's office, where he has better insurance than we
So
have.
are you saying
will
that
also
you
say-
send this to the lawyers because you think that we're going to do something?
Well,
Is that what you're saying?
yes, but I'm not concerned for my safety. But I will say, since you have identified yourself as one of the people that continuously makes records requests,
everybody knows that.
part of the problem and the reason that they've deferred it to council is because Ms. Durham and her friends also like to file complaints against the association with what they find with the Department of Business and Professional Regulation that then become legal matters for the association to deal with. They like to file complaints against the board members personally, against their professional licenses, and it does become a bit of a personal witch hunt, unfortunately.
Well, I don't agree. But you didn't answer the question about, now you were at the design committee when the $1,000 special assessment came up.
I don't remember.
I'm going to answer the question. There's not a special assessment being
Okay.
passed this evening because there's not a special assessment on the agenda.
Well, I just wanted to
The
be
agenda
clear
item
what it
is
was for, whether do we not have the money for the material alterations? And so that special assessment that Sharon brought up at the design committee, was that now are you gonna try and blame me and us and say, oh, well, now we have to have this money for this, for the alteration?
You're leaving the bounds again. Well, I'm going to interject here, and I am going to defer to those who were present. Brett Schlave, I believe, will address.
Yeah, I can address that, actually.
Will you step forward, please, and try
Yes,
to
Ms.
recollect?
Yes.
My name is Brett, 27A. The $1,000 was not an assessment for unpaid or unavailable funds, Ms. Durham. From my understanding, the thought process with our board president was, if there was going to be renovations done to the hallways, it might be a nice idea to modernize the doors and the antiquated locking systems. And the money was not there for new doors and locking systems, and she thought that possibly $1,000 per unit would pay for doors. But then realizing that there are many people who financially could not obtain and or handle a $1,000 assessment, pulled back. That way saving what could be a financial burden for many residents. It had nothing to do with whether funds were available. And I don't know that funds are available or not available. I would assume they are if they're trying to pass a renovation project. But the doors had nothing to do with carpets and hallway renovation. I hope that clears it up to some extent. Sharon, am I correct?
Did she hear your response?
I was at the meeting, and that's exactly what.
Thank you.
Right, it wasn't for an assessment, it was for a front door. If we wanted to bring the
Joe?
front door.
You wanna come up?
That's what happened. I was there.
I mean, I'll clarify it again.
Brad was there, so I don't know if you guys
Joe Moniz, 19I. I was at the meeting, I'm actually the chairman of the design committee, and I do recall the conversation, not about an assessment, but if we opted as a building to get brand new front doors, if each individual unit would contribute $1,000 towards that. We immediately put a screeching halt to that and redirected our design back to a painted brown door. And we all decided we'd rather paint it brown than get a new door for $1,000. So, Brad, I remember that as well.
Anybody else?
Yes, I would.
I really would appreciate it.
Go ahead.
I think that in a way, those present can see a kind of microcosm in the event that just took place that pretty much represents with the entire business of trying to conduct a positive transition for Venetia into the future is life. Individuals who are so intent, who try to find something, anything wrong, when they leave, they smell smoke. They douse the entire barn in a flood of water. I mean, Ms. Durham was present. She did not speak to us in a working design committee meeting. We were civil. We addressed her when she came in and sat down. She sat and took notes.
What?
Working meeting, that is where we
She said they made jokes.
problems, discuss our problem, and discuss what solutions might be possible, and the pros and the cons of those solutions. Of unit owners, Ms. Durham moved through the community telling people I proposed $1,000 special assessment at that meeting. Furthermore, that I am planning $1,000 special assessment. Believe me, since 2006, we have done everything possible to avoid any special assessment. We have tried to bring maintenance to a level that is commensurate with the value of the property that we have, so that there's not a disincentive either for maintenance or a disincentive for potential buyers to buy at Venetia. We present a healthy progression toward potential solvency and restoration of our entire facility. And we are plagued to people who ask for petty cash receipts from the year 2009, trying to find some expense that was approved by a board member that could be viewed in any way as an inappropriate expense. And I would like for Michael to address for a moment recent deeper complaints.
Complaints. She wants
We're
you
losing you, Sharon.
She wants you to address the recent complaints she said.
Sharon. Okay.
Yeah, you're fading in and out, Sharon.
Okay, I'm going to ask you guys to just call me back.
Well,
Can you hear us? Because you're back, I think.
Okay, yeah, you know, it's AT&T. What are you going to do?
Okay.
The recent deeper complaint involved petty cash expenditures by a former manager, I believe the year was 2008, in which she used her own discretionary petty cash fund used for staff luncheons et al. She included the cost of a cake and a diaper bag gift. Office next door, she was the paralegal of Neil Schuster, an attorney who rents space on the floor, who provided them again and again and again throughout the course of any day with free notary services. They, because they all knew her, I guess, added a cake to their regular staff luncheon, and they gave her a diaper bag. Ms. Durham brought this matter to the Department of Business and Professional Regulation as a wrongdoing on the part of the board of directors, because we signed the check, petty cash, that was utilized, and I readily told everybody involved, when I was asked if they could add a Publix cake and a diaper bag to their staff luncheon, I said, sure, absolutely. Well, this woman has provided free notary services for years and continues to. But it's actually, it's really appalling to me that legal time is expended, that management time is expended, that my own goodwill and good efforts are abused in this fashion.
Okay, yes. There was a DBPR complaint filed by one of the unit owners after a records request against the association, which obviously the association has to defend and spend money on legal counsel, that involved a cake and a diaper bag that a former manager approved from petty cash. And I forget the amount, but I think it was like $100 or $100 and something dollars. It was a very small sum. There's been much more significant money spent in legal fees having to respond to the complaint. So that's what that's about. Mr.
Mislocate the public's receipt.
Correct.
Yeah, and can I say too that I was not on the board at the time, so I reviewed the matter. Obviously, it's a concern when someone claims that money is spent improperly, and I really have to say two things. One, there was never a finding that the money was spent improperly because our legal counsel, I believe, decided to basically agree to refund the money rather than expend additional funds that would have cost us even more. But I think that it's fair to say that in most businesses, buying flowers or buying a cake is really not considered to be out of the bounds of normal business. And I believe that if I had been on the board, I probably would have signed it also. I don't think what was done was in any way improper. And I do believe that if we had fully litigated, we probably had at least a good chance of demonstrating that our money was not improperly used. But I think the point that Sharon is making is that we spent thousands and thousands of association dollars on basically a couple of $100 in, you know, what someone considered to be an inappropriate expense. Well, it's unfortunate.
You don't see a problem. You should be so.
If we bought everybody a shower present every
so
time
why he
somebody had a
approached
baby.
me? Why he approached me? So tell him to quiet.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a joke. It's a joke. What are we hearing here right now?
Can I have the microphone?
Did you
It's
get
my
flowers
turn.
from your hospital?
Let them talk about it, because I want to hear why it's happening. I think we're all here because we care about the building, too.
Hi, my name is Steve Bagensky. I'm in 31 City. Okay, what I'm hearing is carping and griping. I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing. But what I'm not hearing is solution. I think Ms. Durham brought up a very good point when she said, why don't we have this $15,000 scanning project? We were promised that. It was basically told to us we would have a $15,000 scanning project. All of these documents would be scanned in, and then you go to a computer terminal and you see whatever you want. Then somebody asks a document request. Here it is. Go look. It's right there. Why don't we look for solutions to make the document requests easier, as opposed to just saying, well, this is our position, we're doing it the old-fashioned way, and it's costing money. If you look under the statute, under the document request thing, it says many associations in that same paragraph make these document requests available by computer. I mean, if we want to improve the association, let's modernize this. I'm looking for solutions here.
Okay, how about
We're
this
not
as a
looking to throw
solution? Why
stones.
don't you give us a year without requests, and we'll have the time to
money.
scan everything in and make it available. Why don't you give us a year without document requests so we can do it?
Will it take you a year to do that?
Well, you know, quite honestly, we have a lot of work that has to get done here. And when I call the office, Mylene is here at 8 o'clock at night doing your document request. So if she's here at 8 o'clock at night pulling documents, when is she going to be scanning in the documents that are coming in?
Just doing the scanning, right?
We have 2 people for an association. Okay, we have a leaking roof right now. We have violations. We had storm issues. We had the chillers.
There's always going to be issues. I mean, honestly and truly, there's always going to be issues.
Okay, give
It's
us
not
a
just
year.
document.
Give us a year. Give us 6 months without a document request, and maybe we can get caught up.
I don't think it'll take you 6 months to do that.
Give them 6, they're trying to find a solution.
So if they're making copies, then what's the big problem of just scanning it?
Yeah, you're making copies, so why don't you just scan them?
Rather than
mean,
making a copy and making
what
us go
what
to
I'm
the
trying
police
to-
office, make it, scan it and send it to us.
I'm trying to
Cut
look
them
for
out.
a positive solution for this association.
giving you a positive
Okay, would you let me
solution.
speak? It's my turn now. I'm looking for something positive for the association. Let's modernize these document requests so that it works. For
Steve,
everybody in this room,
Steve, there's
you
so
can
many-
request, anybody can go and say, okay, I want to see this contract.
Steve, there's
Or
a
I
million
wanna
things
see-
that we've been trying to fix though before that. I got in the middle and intervened because I saw that there was tension between everybody.
Okay.
And I was the one that talked with you about that being a good idea when we did it. But I've been dying, my carpet smells like dog crap every day right outside. For 10 years I've been here, they've been promising to have carpets.
Okay.
If we can't get that done because it's costing thousands of dollars of legal fees because you guys are making records
But
requests.
you are, it's paid for.
But it's been a constant obstacle. Why don't we all try to work together? We're on this. We all want this building to be better. No one's against you. I have no personal stake between you or Sharon or Lori or anybody. But it looks stupid to the people who are sitting here. It looks like a bickering, personal pissing contest between you
Well,
guys.
it's really,
That's what it looks
your
like.
interpretation.
Well, is it not that?
But I'm not going, no, I'm not
Well, what are
going.
you looking for? What are you trying to get?
I'm
See
not
us
going into
afterwards,
that. I
Brad.
didn't come up here to say I'm asking for documents or not asking for documents.
No, but we
I'm
want
up
this
here
to
to
flow, don't
provide
we?
a solution.
What's
That's
the-
all I'm doing.
Okay, well, she has a reasonable request. Why don't you guys give them some breathing space, and let's put it on an agenda to pay for a scanner as part
They
of the
already did. She already said they spent $15,000. Where did the $15,000 go?
I can
We've
tell
got a
you-
lot of documents scanned, but there were so many document requests, and there was so much work, frankly.
Well, it doesn't really, I mean, under Florida statute, we have a right to the documents.
To
And
hire
that's it.
Right, and we have,
in our office.
No, you're like biting your foot off to spite your face or whatever the word
Don't
is on
talk
it.
to me about that.
I can talk to
didn't-
you. I'm
I
talking
didn't
to you
say
right
that
now.
I'm doing document requests.
Steve and whoever, you can keep requesting the documents.
Mhm.
But if we don't have additional staff, we can't handle the request. So that's what the special assessment is going to cover, the additional requests. You asked for solutions. I suggested a moratorium on requests to allow us to scan the documents. But you don't have to do that. You can keep requesting documents, and we'll keep,
Hire more staff to do it.
and we'll hire more staff so that we can comply with the law.
Mr. Begensky, I think, was at our office several hours today looking at documents.
What about hiring somebody temporarily to scan the documents, and then you've got it done?
Well, I think we will make a decision to hire the people that we need to hire to get the request done in a way that we think is appropriate.
But why don't you hire the people to solve the problem instead of just to continue at the snail's pace?
Well, we haven't decided how we're going to spend the money. What we know, what we're
I
discussing
mean, why
now.
not fix the problem?
Well,
It
they-
seems
they-
wise.
they
I think
started
that
to
the
fix the
problem, and I'll
problem.
just say, is there's two different problems. The board has identified that there's an excessive amount of records requests that are coming from a handful of unit owners. You're saying the problem is that the documents aren't readily available every week when you submit a new records request. So you're both identifying different problems.
I mean, it's costly to put everything that's been on paper. I have a law office, and I don't have it all electronic yet, and it's costly to do that. So I'm modernizing more. I have to do
How many
electronic
people do
filing.
you have in your law?
We've got like 3 or 4 people, okay? But I have to
We have an
prioritize.
association of 380 units.
Right, but we have 3 people. For the cost that we pay to run this place, we're not paying for. We have 2 people in there, and they're dealing with everything that's falling apart while it's going, and you guys are adding to the falling apart part.
Don't say you guys, I mean.
Well, whoever's doing it, I don't know.
No, that's-
What, Lori? Oh, yeah.
You gotta go to the podium, Olympia, please.
Hi, Olympia Zakarakis, I'm 26K. Just an example why it has to become a document request. I requested the financial disclosures of the 2 projects, and I emailed Loretta, and she said to me, why don't you put a doc request? It's very simple. I wanted to see what is the financials of the project so I can vote. Why does this have to become a doc request? It's very simple.
That's true.
That's my point. It may be an excessive amount of voluminous request, but when we ask for something, business records or something to identify what we want, we always get, this is sent to the attorneys or this is a doc request. Very simple. Put it in a piece of paper. Everybody would know.
Olympia, how do we respond to requests? We have to prioritize that.
You put 2 projects on a vote. I'd like to know how you got to the point of saying we can generate 7.5 million on a billboard media. I want to see the analysis. I want to see what the project involves so I can vote for it. The whole way project is paid for. Where did we get the money for?
Right, but when you make a request.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes, but you have to stand in line with the document request.
No, I'm not
that
asking for a
comes before.
document request. I went straight to the board and asked for the financials of this project. Instead of giving me, you say, go and do a doc request. Why?
That's true, that's happened to
That's
me
how
as
it
well.
happens.
But how do you, where do you think I'm gonna get the documents? Where do you
But
think-
how did you do the projects? Did somebody do an analysis of the billboard media or the hallway projects? I mean, they have some financials involvement there.
Okay,
That's all I wanted to
I
find
don't
out.
keep documents in my home or in my file. So if you ask me for information, I have to go to Mylene or
Well,
Gerardo.
that's already
People asking
available,
questions
Loretta. I'm not asking for
About their
something.
home?
Loretta, all I'm asking is when a project is put on a vote for me to vote, it's a great idea, I want to vote for the whole list. I want to see the financial disclosures and the analysis that these
Okay,
involve.
well,
It's very simple.
one day, when we're caught up with all the document requests,
Loretta, this is what I'm saying, if you have a project, you already have done that, correct?
but making it a,
How did
Yeah, how did you
How
start
did
the
you come
project?
to this? I mean, the only thing here is covered up. It's covered up. It's all happening here. It's covered up.
If you have a question, sir, you're going to have to step up to the podium and identify yourself.
Okay, I identify.
This is my point. This is all I wanted to ask. If there is a project, there should have been some analysis or some numbers. That's all I'm asking. But I get addressed to a doc request.
You're not hearing what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is that if I am going to give you the information you're asking
Correct.
for, I have to go to the office to put it together. And that
But
is
it
a
should
do-
be together. This is on the vote
Okay.
right now.
All right, Olympia, you're clearly not hearing what I'm saying. I believe, and whether you believe it or not, I believe that those documents exist, but they have to be pulled out.
So
And
it's
I-
a doc request.
Exactly.
I'm going to explain to you the problem is the documents aren't always kept in the same fashion in which they are asked for. It's not a question that you're getting, like, give us the file where you keep the pool contracts. The document requests that come in here are very specific. Not in your case, I'm not calling you out on this, but I'm saying the majority of them tend to
I
ask for
understand.
very specified things on fishing expeditions looking to try to find some nefarious wrongdoing on the part of the board. So it's not like you can say, here's a file where there's pool contracts. They're very specific. You
I
have to go
understand.
digging and fishing and looking for
Michael,
these
I understand
documents.
This, but what I'm saying, I've sent a copy of a previous similar voting back in 2001 where we had to vote for certain projects like the satellite antenna or the rentals or whatever, and they disclosed certain financials where the source of income was, where the source of revenue. That's all I've asked. It doesn't have to be a doc request. That's what I'm saying.
Then on some of those things, maybe there might be an easier method where I could work with the management. Keep in mind, you underwent a change in management.
Michael, why does it have to go to you? This is something available for everybody to know.
That one seems straightforward that I think the management company could probably handle.
Exactly.
So I'm agreeing with you.
That's
Okay.
that's my point. There are questions that we are addressed to do doc requests, unnecessary.
Or what you do is like what you do with the street project. You know how they have a sign that says it's funded by this. It's going to be done in this year, and it has a little announcement. You see it right on the Venetian Causeway sometimes. And
No, it's not
I mean,
just
what-
the funding. It's, you know.
no,
when
I
you-
understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
I'm
it's-
saying it
yeah,
could,
yeah.
when you make it for a vote, you can maybe put some more information with that. vote,
Exactly,
too.
you have to.
That's not unfair. That's not
Okay,
reasonable.
can I just say that the office is under siege? I don't think you can understand. The office is under siege.
That's the part that we're mad about
Okay.
as citizens here, though, that there's a couple people putting the office under siege. Your request is very reasonable,
No,
but
but what I'm saying is I'm sorry, Loretta.
No,
Where
look,
do
you
you
need to
think you
understand that until the office can function as an office instead of as a responder of document requests, we're not going to be able to handle even the smallest request because you have to take your
I
turn.
understand. What I'm saying is that when you put a project like this, it already exists somewhere. You don't have to go and look for the documents.
she agrees
it's
with
very
you, though.
recent.
She's just saying that in order to get it, you're already lined up behind
Yeah,
these
but
other
why
people
do I
who are
have to
doing
line
it.
up? This is not
Because
a
of
dock
them,
request.
ask them why.
Yeah, but it's not a dock request, Brad.
them?
It's not a dock request.
I'm sorry, Steve, I don't know, if I
It's not
I
a
thought
dock
you and
request.
Lori were the ones that are doing it.
No,
If it's not, you
no,
guys
it's-
know that.
What's happening here is getting some residents against other residents, and this is not, because we're all
I
interested
think that
here.
that's the ploy of this
This,
meeting.
we're all
Get
interested here,
residents
we're all
involved.
unit owners,
Okay, I
we
have
love
to
our
tell you,
place.
Columbia, you're not part of the problem.
No,
okay?
it's not a, what I'm,
But there
it's
are
not a
people
problem or a
that are,
resolution.
no, there are people that I have to say, I don't believe that some of the requests are innocent. Some of the requests, I can tell you, some of the requests have to do with my unit. Why did anyone start to look at whether or not I've rented out my unit?
And
How
let me-
is
Loretta.
how is that of interest to anyone?
Okay, let me make a statement here. Whose interest is if I'm in bank foreclosure or not, that Sharon put it out there in writing? That's none of anybody's business, but she did it.
Okay, all I'm saying, the point
So
here.
let's be fair here, let's be fair here. It's nobody's business
Yeah.
to put somebody else, but when it came to my place at the election,
Okay.
she put a
It
letter
is-
out there.
It is clear to me from coming to so many association meetings that there are personality conflicts in this building. It is clear to me that there are a few people in the building that are out there desperately looking for something that the association is doing wrong, and that is why they are bombarding the association with records requests and requests for legal opinions and one thing after another. And truthfully, it's ridiculous because all of you are paying for it. Even the people that are putting forth these constant harassing requests are paying for it through their maintenance. And so far, what have they uncovered? A diaper bag and a cake. And that is after the association has spent in excess of $30,000 responding to records requests and requests for legal information and one thing after another. And somebody has to pay for that. And there's only one well that the association can go to pay for its bills, and that's you all, the unit owners. Does anybody else have any additional
Yes, I
questions? Mr. Bagensky, let's pass him the mic.
Okay, here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. You want us to vote on the media board, right? So it's put out there, you're going to get something to the effect of 50% of the revenue comes to the building. Well, what does that mean? 50% of the revenue. Well, what is the revenue? Is it 50% of $100? Is it 50% of $7.5 million? I mean, what is it? There's no information. There's no information on, like, does our insurance costs go up now because you put that media board out there? Are there additional electrical costs for that? I mean, we're voting on something that we have to get 75%, something that we have to live with. On the side, it's pretty much on the front of the building, because that, even though that's the parking garage, it's the front of the building. We're going to live with this thing, and we just want to know, hey, is this thing really going to be the panacea that everyone seems, that the board is making it out to be, with the, oh, you're going to get $7.5 million potentially, or 50%.
It's in the elevator.
It's in the, I mean, so then you ask the office a simple question, and then they ignore the question because they don't know how to answer it. So then what do? You ask in a document request.
I will answer your question. Bring me the mic, please, Mylene. I'm sorry, but you're
That
standing.
was addressed in the last meeting, all that.
Huh?
In the last meeting, it was
Okay.
addressed and explained.
These questions were asked at the August 9th meeting, but you were not here at that meeting, so I will answer them again. The contract that is being voted on, I know you've requested it and probably have it by now, so you know what it says.
No, I don't have.
Okay. There is no guaranteed income. What the contract is that the company that the association is contracting with, that they are going to front all of the cost for the proposed media board. Whatever those costs are, rental cost, electrical cost, insurance costs, they're going to front them. Then whatever monies come in as a result of that media board, they are going to then recoup what they have fronted. There is no investment required from the association, so there is no money out of pocket. After they have recouped their investment, we get to what is the net profit, obviously. Whatever money is left over is profit. It's impossible to say what that will be because this is a new venture for the association. But it is anticipated by looking at other rentals in the area that it will be significant monies. The association will then take 50% of those net profits in as income to do whatever they determine, to either use it to pay for these interior renovations that you guys are also voting on, or to lower maintenance, or to create a reserve account and to put the association in a more healthy fiscal position. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that answers my question.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Well, no, the other thing that I want to say is I have another positive suggestion I'd like to make beyond the scanning project and the computer thing. I think another thing would be is if you ask a question to Castle Management, Mylene or Mr. Palacios or Mr. Clyde, then just ask the question. It doesn't always have to be a document request. Can you ask a simple question? Hey, what about this? It doesn't have to become this voluminous thing. I mean, we need to be educated about our homes.
When they are no longer under siege, they will be able to answer questions.
They may not. Sometimes they choose.
Mr. Baginski, I'm going to say it's a little bit disingenuous to pretend that that's an innocent, helpful suggestion, because what you do is you then take whatever information you think you can find and you start filing complaints against the association with the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, which you're entitled to do.
Sir, when did I do that?
Recently.
I filed a DVDR complaint recently?
You do.
Okay, I will take you to task on that.
Okay.
I want the board and Castle Management to say, have you received any DVDR complaints from me, Castle Management? Have you received any DVDR complaints from me?
And here's enough witness now.
Have you?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mr. Gongora, can you back up your statement with when I filed a DVDR
I don't
complaint?
recall, but you have filed them.
When?
I don't
In
recall.
the last year? Have I filed any in the last
Mr. Baginski,
year?
you were at my office for nearly 3 hours today,
What does
going
that
through
have to do with the
association
question?
records.
Why are you
not?
changing why are you changing the topic? You just said
I'm
Mr.
not
Baginski
changing the
has
topic because what
filed
happens,
a
Mr.
DVDR
Baginski,
complaint.
is you look for documentation and you're in hopes of looking for something to
Did
try
I
to
file
file
a
complaints
DVDR
against the association.
complaint,
You
Mr.
ask very
Gongora?
pointed questions.
Mr.
You ask for
Gongora?
very specific documentation, and your intent is not to try to make the building better. It's an intent to try to find something that the building is doing wrong, and your great expectation is to try to file more complaints. Is there another question? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Susan had a question.
Here, my lady.
Susan Newman, 25K. Mine's not a question, but a suggestion. I'm in the public relations business, and I deal with media, newspapers, radio, television, and many of them are required by law to also provide documents for public access. And they do so by maintaining a file in their office where people can come in and look at them. If they want copies, then they, can pay for copies. But perhaps we could start a situation like that where we have a book in the office with copies of the bids on the hallway, the bids on the pool, or the bids on the media board, or whatever it is that everybody can come in and look at, that you don't end up with 30 document requests to see the same document.
We really only have 2 people requesting documents on a daily basis.
It's not a bad idea, Loretta, in any case. Maybe, I'd come down and look at something if I was curious about it, but I'm not going to take the time to make out a document request. But that's my personality.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and I think there's probably more we could do if we had some breathing room to take you up on some of those suggestions.
Well, that's...
It may be a good idea for us to think about, in addition to recouping just losses. Okay. Very documented. Actually, you can all easily request a record that will show you the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of staff time that have been devoted to this, and the actual cost to the association. And I believe that office is prepared to show you what this is costing them. But I think it may make sense, in addition to recouping the unnecessary and unplanned expenditure of management time and money on these requests, as well as those that are likely, from everything I hear, to continue, I think we might want to add to that a full-time person.
You're fading again.
will pay castle management, we will pay insurance, we will pay payroll taxes, and we will hire a person with sufficient capability to continuously scan. I hope that document request is vague enough that that person does not have to be called into service, complete, routine, regular burden of management tasks due to huge document requests.
See,
If you want to see what we're talking about, you should look at the piles and piles and piles of the beeper complaints and document requests. It's I know that Michael's been in this business a long time. I'm in contact with many association board presidents. In all the stories that exist, I have never encountered, and I believe Michael would back me up on this as an attorney to associations, I have never encountered systematic attack, the egregious use of the right to.
I have to say, in the federal government, we also had a freedom of information law, but we routinely didn't comply with the time limits because it was impossible. We could not have provided the services that the government provides if we responded to FOIA requests in 10 days. We wouldn't have. And in fact, it's routine for government agencies to be a year, 2 years. The FBI is like 5 years behind, if not more. But here, for whatever reason, people comply with the 10-day time period or 5 days, whatever it is. And it puts a huge burden. So I have to repeat that I don't think we're in a position to get ahead of the situation because we're constantly catching up. Now, as Sharon suggests, maybe what we can do is assess for both, for the ongoing voluminous requests and additional monies to have a dedicated person to scan documents and make them available. And I don't object to that. It's probably going to raise how much we were planning to assess, but it is something, if people want that, then, I think that's fine. It's quite costly.
And if it's any consolation, the board has already started, one of the reasons why they hired Castle is to come up with a solution for these records requests. And since Castle has come on board, every document that goes through the office has been scanned. So if tomorrow you want something from June or from May or from last week, whether it's an invoice, minutes from a meeting, checks, copies of checks, they are there. They are taking the steps for a solution. The problem is all the other years prior to this, and that is like an insurmountable project. So give them time.
I'm sorry, did you finish, Susan? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
I will say, Loretta, I'm at odds with you on that. I will not support any special assessment for that purpose. So I'm glad to hear that the current records are being scanned, and obviously you're probably going to try and work your way back to the back records. Is there a time limit on what can be requested?
7 years.
7 years. So we just have to go back 7 years
Right.
in scanning. Okay. Just 7 years. Well, we already have a couple months done, so that's ahead of the game, right? Okay, so let's try not to do a special assessment, and if those who are requesting the records could agree to some sort of a moratorium of whatever period of time, that, we can give the office an opportunity to get things in order. And in the meantime, a book like what's sitting in front of you would do for, bids and different things like that people want to just come down and look at. Nothing fancy, just the bare minimum.
Thank you for your comment.
That's sort of good news on the 7-year moratorium, because I think really shady stuff happened when I first started in here. Like beyond 7 years, I mean, if there's shady stuff going on, going back 7 years, there was really shady stuff going on before 7 years.
Yeah, but how far back, even if we find it, how far back can you go and what can you do about it?
No, I know.
So,
I'm saying that's not unreasonable.
Well, Brad, I don't know if you're finished.
No, I'm
Well, actually, you've kind of touched upon it. We all know legally you can request records. We all know that. That's been established. And none of us here are naive enough to know, act like we don't know who the small contingent of individuals who live here are that are requesting these. We all know. Is it unreasonable to take her advice or her suggestion and have a moratorium for 6 months, let them do this? Because I venture to say that there will be many, none of us want an assessment because of that. Certainly because of, don't mind if the assessment was for something to enhance everybody's life here. But I don't think it's a good idea for it to be vocal that there's an outstanding assessment that's going to be levied against everybody because of these requests. It could be very difficult, and if given the moratorium, the whole problem may disappear. Is that something that both of you could live with? I mean, can you make a commitment to that now? If they're willing to make a commitment and say if you lay off of them, they'll go ahead and try to scan everything that's not scanned. Do you find this, what is it that I said that's humorous? Unless you have a better suggestion, I'd like to know. Do you?
Just that you think that there's a special assessment bucket for one thing, but not a special assessment bucket for another?
Well, I quite frankly would like one of you to explain to me how a board can, let me finish, how a board can provide to you a hallway renovation project, assessment free, and a media board that's been explained that there is no cost to the individuals living here, and yet you still find fault with it. I'd like to know how that's,
fault with it.
well, you didn't vote for it one way or the other, and you want to know why there's animosity.
I don't know what you do, I don't.
It's apparent that it's difficult. Steve?
Oh, I don't
Explain
have
to
any
me.
animosity.
No. I'm talking about the moratorium. If is that something that you could work with? I mean, I don't understand.
Sit down and draft up an agreement of some sort, I would say. I mean, if you want to do that, it's up to you.
As long as transparency,
I mean, what I'm saying is like, I mean, because then at the end of a moratorium, if I want to see records and I'm not allowed to see them, and then at the end of the 6 months they're not able to supply them.
Well, that would be a whole.
what?
Then it would be certainly a whole different scenario than it is tonight.
So then you'd wait the 6 months and you wouldn't get to see records that you might want to see.
Well, then I don't think
and then they
individuals would
still
have the
can't
right to be
provide them.
angry at a possible assessment if they weren't prepared.
Maybe at the end of the 6 months, they have to have everything online, and, you know.
Well, I mean, I don't know that
Can
we
they do
commit
it? I don't know.
to
Can you
I'm
do it?
saying of dialogue, just a dialogue would be nice.
I think they need breathing room.
May I speak? May I speak?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that a really good thing to do would be, in the interest of complete disclosure on this, for all of the unit owners to be able to review online the actual hours and dollars spent on record requests through the last year. I think that's a really good place to start, because management is not just people sitting in a desk a certain amount of time. It is related to very specific things that we have to do to keep moving toward wholeness, financial stability. Those things have been derailed by what is really an assault on the management office.
Well, I wouldn't be in favor of that because I've been defamed by things in the past regarding you, Sharon, so.
I would like to finish. Will you please stay in order, Mr. Baginski? I do not believe that we can sustain this without a special assessment. It wasn't my idea, but it is the only way, I think, that we can, because our budget anticipated the ability to reach certain goals and to accomplish certain things by a certain time with a certain limited number of employees. burden
It was
and
my
cost to the
idea. It was
association.
my idea to do the special assessment. It was my idea because I don't feel that we can move forward with our project and continue to respond to these requests with the staff we have. So what's the choice? I mean, there is no choice. We either take
There is
it out.
no choice. We're
Right.
not gonna get some kind of agreement to stop now and replace somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000 in operating expense losses. Those are real, and they must be replaced. So there is going to likely be a special assessment. If we agree that hiring another employee to spend his or her year uninterrupted scanning Publix receipts and everything else for the last 7 years, then we will do it. And that will add approximately $80,000 to the cost of the special assessment. Because, by the way, when you put together a special assessment, you have to account for the fact that many people will not pay it. Also have to account for the fact that when you conduct a special assessment, the management company charges not the special assessment, but also accounting for it. So we're going to pay a lot of money to reach the goal of transparency as defined year 2012 by the Venetia. But in the interest of transparency, now, tonight, we will post the losses to date. For complaints, the continuous abusive use of conflict, which is mounting and escalating. And then I ask you to join me in regarding this problem and what may be done about it without our checkbooks and the amount we have to write on those checks exceeding our available resources, because that's always the problem at Venetia. We're not rich people. We do not easily write checks for $1,000 and $2,000 without noticing, for the most part, some considerable agitation or stress in our lives, in our financial lives. That's who we are at Venetia. We have to find smart ways, things to cost less and make more. We won't do as well in the future. And we're at the point where I manage. We're paying a lot of money for management. We do anything else except complaints, document requests, with a continually, really abusive pattern of communications. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but things have been getting steadily better at Venetia. Really, they have. We're going to have to pay for this little hobby that a few individuals have. And we're going to have to pay either a little or we're going to have to pay a lot. If we want every piece of paper and coordinated and organized, because remember, really mentally you're only thinking of the time it takes for the scanner bar to pass.
That's right. You still have to.
Document.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
organization of these things requires software, requires a considerable amount of technical assistance.
even if, Sharon, can I
He's
just
already
say,
doing it.
even if the document is scanned, you still have to find it. So unless you have someone who codes it so that it can be found. I ran a legal office. I had more than 3 employees. Nobody scans back 10, 20 years unless you hire a company to do that, because most offices, you have a small firm. How do you do it with 3 or 4 people? You can't do it. But scanning the documents only means that the documents are scanned in. It doesn't mean you can retrieve them. Retrieval of the document requires programming.
What you're talking from is called indexing. That's what I do for a living. Indexing means you're taking that data and you're putting it in a format that can be translated and searched upon on a website, for instance.
Okay,
That's called indexing. So that takes a long time. That is very laborious. It is expensive. It does take software. That's what I do for a living.
Why don't you come?
My name is Lewis. I'm in 12H. So what you're talking about is called indexing. I agree with you 100%. I think what we're all turned off about is the fact that the word assessment got brought up. And I think to Lori's point, I'm just assuming, I don't know for sure, but she's hearing media board, hallway renovation, and then the next word that came out was assessment. Now, that may be a coincidence, but we're all trying to look for ways to avoid assessments. If that means 6-month moratorium, then let's agree to that. If it means a 9-month moratorium, let's agree to that. But whatever it is, I think what we're asking for is transparency where the documents are available. And if that deadline is not met, somebody's being held accountable, and that's either a fine or a reduction in maintenance or something. But there has to be something lost on both ends.
Okay, but can I just respond to you that the 6-month moratorium, a 6-month moratorium just gives the office some breathing room. There's no commitment that in 6 months, 7 years of documents can be scanned and indexed without an assessment. I mean,
I understand.
okay.
And I'm using 6 months fictitiously. That's just an idea.
Right.
I'm saying the alternative to an assessment is come up with a period, whether that's 9 months, whether it's a year, where we agree, 1, we don't make document requests, and 2, nothing's going to be available until this time. I'm just trying to find a way to avoid assessment, because that's the word that turns everybody off. And when people hear media boards and renovations, and
The
then
media
assessment right
board
after that,
is free.
I understand
and
that. We all
the-
understand that.
Okay,
But
and the
the
hallway-
association is there. So people are just thinking, and it may not be accurate, but people are thinking, because I thought it too, oh, we just got pulled the shell game. We're voting on something, and it was told that it was going to be at no cost to us, but a sentence later, the word assessment was brought up. And it could be coincidence, but we're just asking.
No, you have to look at, and maybe Michael can explain it better, but we have insurance money that we receive for hallway damage. That's going to pay for the hallway renovation. The media board,
And collection.
I'm sorry?
In collection. We've been allocating some
Collections.
funds earned
We're just getting 50,000 now.
in collection from units we've been chasing for unpaid payments for years. We've allocated and directed some of those revenues to this project. There's approximately $120,000 right now in this project, but we anticipate will cost around $180,000. We know from ALG have the collections coming completely. It will be a year serial, this has been said many times. We'll begin with the floors that are most egregiously damaged. We'll also begin with the studio floor to pay the highest price per square foot in maintenance. It will be done entirely. It is cheaper to do entirely. The painting will go top to bottom. Carpeting will be purchased.
It's hard to hear you, Sharon.
Sharon, you're fading in and out.
Darn it, I'm saying important things.
I have no doubt.
I will be very, can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
Very happy to explain to unit owners exactly how this process is going to take place. I do not have, nor does anyone you will ever elect to the board, a crystal ball to say exactly what advertisers want to ever be. The wall board, digital board, I trust, because of the great interest of the Ginting Group acquiring this advertising access, I trust that we have in fact gone from a B- to an A+ media location. Very expensive advertising will be displayed on our board. As the area changes, hopefully you get Apple ads. Project comes in, I can tell all of you that their strong interest is to be able to advertise their own venue. In that case, because this is my industry, you guys don't probably all know this, but I come 5 years in the advertising industry. I know exactly how much billboards make, wallboards make.
Sharon, you're fading again.
Yeah,
Okay.
we probably should be wrapping up.
Sharon?
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball.
Okay, I think your point is clear, and I think you said this at the last meeting, that you're an A-, B+ location. There's no guaranteed revenue stream, but with your background in advertising, with Genting coming in next door, and with other media boards that we're seeing in the area, it's projected that this will produce significant income for the association.
Listen, Michael.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. And let's take this as the final comment, because I think we're all getting tired.
Maureen Macker, 17H. I just have a question. What company are you interested in with this media board? You guys said you have a company already lined up that will pay for this and pay for that. What's the name of the company?
We do. I don't have the contract. Sharon, do you recall the name of the company?
I think that is attorney-client privilege at this point, so it's fine. I'm going to keep it that way.
Okay. Then just got another question. You guys were mentioning assessment earlier, but the way I come out of this means that there's two different assessments. It was no assessment, then there was an assessment for the outstanding amount of money you put into doc requests, and then Sharon mentioned in her own words that there's going to be another assessment on top of that for a person you have to hire to do the work. So I come out of this with two assessments, $40,000 each.
I don't think, I'll try to answer your question from a legal perspective. Just because I know that people hear assessment and they freak out. I live in a condo too, I hate that word. But everybody that lives in a condo hates that word. An assessment is not being passed this evening. Just so you know, this was a discussion item concerning a potential future special assessment. Legally speaking, a special assessment vote is a board decision. It requires a 14-day advance notice, and that notice needs to tell you specifically the amount of the assessment and what it's for. That is not on your agenda tonight. That is not happening. What was discussed by the board is that there is a budget shortfall in the operating budget for your association because of the number of records requests coming in. They're spending money on legal fees and management fees that they did not anticipate responding to records requests. That number, as we sit here tonight, from what I've been told, is over $30,000. The second number that you were hearing was saying if they're going to have to hire somebody else to come in or an outside company to have to come in to scan documents in from previous years, they're guessing at what that amount might be. Those numbers are not concrete by any stretch of the imagination. And if the board ultimately determines that the only way they can recoup the budget shortfall is through a special assessment, you will be notified in a specific special assessment meeting notice for a future meeting. Did that answer your question?
I just want to clarify for everybody here.
Okay. Does anybody have any final questions?
Michael, if I may.
Yes, so you both had your hands raised, so we have two more questions from two gentlemen in the audience.
Joey Corona, 10A is my unit. What seems like a foreordained conclusion that the votes will be in order for the improvement in our hallway project. I would like to offer for review these 3 photos that I've brought from my hallway. The first one shows a TV, a light, and boxes at the end of my hallway. Please note they've been there for over a week. They were moved today. Second one shows cat litter in the hallway down by the trash unit. And the third one shows cat litter and cat feces in the actual trash room. That being said, and on the heels of this improvement project, I would like to suggest to the board that we return, if possible, to our original rules and regulations of pet ownership and who that applies to, because I don't think any of us want to go into a project which is going to cost quite a bit of money and then have this kind of culture behavior continue with our new hallways. I presented this to the office, and it's not an indictment of the office, but there hasn't been any action taken. These were taken earlier today. It's actually been that way for over a month now. I actually have a resident who's in attendance who I took down to that area so he could see himself. And I want to say that I have nothing against pets. I want to go on record as saying I have nothing against pets, because I know there's some pet owners here in attendance, and they're responsible pet owners, the ones I know. I believe it's a renter issue, and I want to make that point. And again, I'd like to offer these as evidence and suggest that maybe the board consider, again, returning to our original rules and regulations.
So marks for identification.
Joey, did they change the rule, or is it still owners only?
My understanding from the last meeting I attended, and that was maybe 2 meetings ago, maybe as much as 3 months ago, the rules were changed at some time, and that was in order to get more renters in the building. Someone can correct me from the board if I'm wrong, and it served its purpose, and that's what I believe. I believe it served its purpose at the time. And again, on the heels of this project, I'm just making a suggestion that maybe we want to review that. If it has to be rewritten, that's my suggestion. I'd also like to state for the record that Brad meant cut off your nose to spite your face, not your foot to spite your face, because I don't want... Although maybe that's a new adage, Brad, that'll go down in perpetuity and you'll get credit for it forever. All right, I wanted to add with a little levity.
I think he has a question or comment.
My name is Manolo Barcala from 17H. I agree with him because several times I point that thing, and it's true. Many meetings ago, years ago, I've been talking about the same thing. Nobody here, even when I was Continental in here, I mentioned to the representative of the Continental, I mentioned even to Sharon, I pointed to Sharon in the corridor how bad it was, and nothing was done. So that is a thing. Why are we going to change a carpet if we don't correct this frost? You put a new carpet, in 2 weeks, you're going to have a mess again.
We'll fix the problem.
Fix the problem first. I mean, in here everybody think, I don't think the owners, any owners that own a pet, let the pet do anything, any damage, because everybody's in the interest of the building.
I would kill them first.
But renters, they don't give them about. I used to live with a renter over there for about 6 or 8 months. Then they just open the door. The poor animal was so desperate and go in the same spots all the time.
Yep.
So these people needed to be punished. Say, okay, either you take your pet on the side, or you have to remove the pet. Another thing that I want to ask you, since we talking and since we are so considerate about the money, why we been doing meetings in your office for the board of directors? Do you do it for free? Do you do it for free? Do you do use? No, that is my question. That is my question. Do you do it for free? No, right? Okay, so that is things that some people in here is concerned. Why we spend the money, how we spend the money, and why is no transparency in the things that we do. Why, if we take 3 quotations, why we don't support the quotation? Why we pick by finger? And Sharon, why, if you think you are so tired of the building, why you don't let somebody else to be in your position? So then maybe we will see what is the difference. Maybe the problem is you, Sharon.
She got reelected.
I know she got
the reelected.
I mean, how is very, very questionable.
No, it's not questionable.
Oh,
Everybody
yes.
voted for it.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to hear Sharon's response? Let's
Yes.
get the mic back so she can
Please.
answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, but I mean, can I defend, Sharon, can I defend you? I really don't think it's appropriate to have ad hominem attacks on people.
It's not that.
Yes,
It's
it is.
reality.
Yes, that's
Why-
not.
Why is not transparent in the
No,
paper?
I don't think it's appropriate. Sharon is elected and she runs every year.
Yes.
If somebody ran against her that the building wanted, then obviously she would no longer be the president. She's the president because people overwhelmingly vote for her. So I think that that's an inappropriate thing. And Sharon, if you'd like to respond, that's fine. But I think it's ridiculous to have ad hominem attacks.
I know the hours that your directors put in because I speak to them, but I will just say from a legal perspective, without giving up any attorney-client privilege information, the concern of the board is that the records requests that are coming in are geared and worded in a way that it appears they're trying to look for things to file future DBPR complaints and other types of complaints against the association. That's why they've sent it to the attorneys. It's more of a defensive thing to try to prevent future claims against the association and spending of additional association funds.
That just happened.
So I think his question is why do we need a lawyer at a homeowners meeting?
Because we used to have.
Because of you guys.
No.
Yes, it's hostile.
We used to have a lawyer. You just started you doing this.
No, it's not why.
You're
I've
being
been here for
hostile.
10 years and I've watched this last 3 years.
You
You
are the
guys have
most
been
hostile
excessively
person
hostile
to
towards
this-
this association.
You have been the most hostile this whole
Okay,
meeting.
I think
Because it's built up to this.
So do we need the lawyer because you're being
Everybody has
hostile?
the right
Don't
to
be
talk.
hostile.
Everyone has a right to talk. You want to know why there's a lawyer here? It's
Don't be
because
hostile.
listen, it's revved up a little bit. It's going to cost us money, and money breeds hostility. Okay, everybody here is going to have out of pocket because of you guys.
Why do we need a lawyer at our homeowners meeting?
Because
What's the
it's
problem?
legal. You're raising legal issues. If I
It's
was
a
on that board, I'd want a
homeowners
lawyer next to
meeting.
me for everything when you guys are
It's a
here.
homeowners meeting. We've never had one until, what, 3 years ago?
Lori, I mean, I was here in the early stages when there was people that you probably needed a lawyer and sheriffs here, I think, when they were here in those early
Yeah.
meetings.
I think at this
Well, you
point
have that
is a good
now.
point
You have
to
that
probably
now.
conclude.
You're a lawyer and the police.
I mean, to Ms. Durham's defense, she has been unhappy with every single board and every single lawyer and every single manager since I've been involved with this building. She has never been happy, and I don't think she ever will be. But with that said, thank you so much for coming, everybody, this evening. Have a beautiful night. The meeting is concluded.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon.